My name is Rachel. I'm 25 years old, and until last Christmas, I lived with my mom, stepdad, and younger brother in a small rental house just outside Toledo, Ohio. I worked full-time at a call center downtown. The hours were long and the pay wasn't great, but it covered most of our bills: electricity, water, gas, groceries, internet, even streaming services. If I hadn't been handling things, the heat would have gone off months ago. The fridge would have been empty. That Christmas Eve, I got off my shift around 7 p.m., carrying 2 plastic grocery bags and a small box of gifts I bought from clearance sales. The streets were covered in thin snow, and the wind had that sharp Ohio chill. I stepped into the house still wearing my work jacket. The living room smelled like reheated ham and cheap wine. The Christmas tree in the corner was decorated with tangled lights we'd reused for years. My mom, Karen, was standing in the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. My stepdad, Ron, was already seated at the table, half a beer in, staring blankly at the muted TV. My little brother, Jacob, was on his phone. I smiled and set down the food on the counter. I grabbed some extra rolls. They were on sale, I said. No one responded. We sat down. The table was quiet except for the sound of forks hitting plates and the muffled hum of a Christmas song from the radio. I passed the mashed potatoes to Jacob. He gave me a quick smile. Then, out of nowhere, my mother slammed her fork down. "Rachel," she said, loud and sharp, "it's time for you to leave." I blinked. "What?" "You heard me," she said, eyes locked on mine. "You're grown. You've been here long enough. You need to move out." At first, I thought she was joking. I waited for a smirk or a laugh. But her face stayed cold. Ron kept chewing like this was normal. Even Jacob stopped mid-bite. He looked at me with wide eyes. "I pay the bills," I said quietly, my voice steady. "The rent, the lights, the water." "And that's the problem," Ron cut in. "You walk around like you own the place just because you help out. This is our house. You've been acting like it's yours." I felt the blood drain from my face. I wasn't here because I couldn't afford to leave. I was here because they needed me. After my stepdad lost his job and mom's hours got cut at the pharmacy, I stepped in. I didn't ask for credit. I didn't make speeches. I just paid the bills and kept quiet. And now they were kicking me out like I was some freeloading stranger. I looked at my mom. Her face was hard, unreadable. "Fine," I said, pushing back my chair. Jacob looked panicked. "Wait, are you serious?" "Mom, are you serious right now?" "It's not your concern," she snapped. "You're still a kid. You don't understand." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I just stood up, grabbed my plate, and walked it to the sink. Then I turned to Jacob and gave him a small nod. He looked back at me like he wanted to say something, but no words came. Just hurt. I walked upstairs to my room. No one followed. No one called my name. Behind my door, I sat down on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath. I could afford to live alone. I had savings. I even had a backup key to an old car that still ran. They didn't know it yet, but the second they told me to leave, they also cut themselves off. That night, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain myself. I just pulled out my suitcase from under the bed and started folding my clothes. Shirts, jeans, a few books, my charger. Everything I had bought with overtime money. Everything I'd earned. This room had once been a shelter. Now it just felt like borrowed space. As I zipped up my bag, the wind outside howled. A car passed by the street below, headlights flashing through the blinds. I wasn't scared. I wasn't angry. I was done. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad, but because I didn't want to waste one more second in that house. I folded the last hoodie, zipped up my bag, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. The only sound was the old heater rattling in the hallway, another thing I had been paying for. Around 5:30 in the morning, I heard a soft knock. "Rachel." It was Jacob's voice. Barely a whisper. I stood up and opened the door. He stepped in quickly, looking over his shoulder like he wasn't supposed to be there. "You're really leaving?" he asked. I nodded. "They said it, didn't they?" His voice cracked a little. "And you're just going to go?" "I have to," I said. "They made their choice." He looked around the room like he was trying to memorize it. "But what about the bills? Groceries? The internet?" I didn't answer right away. He already knew. That's what scared him. I wasn't just his sister. I was the one keeping the house running. The one making sure the lights came on, that the fridge had milk. The one who paid the balance every time Mom said, "We'll pay you back later." "I can't be their wallet anymore, Jacob," I said gently. "I deserve better than this." He sat on the edge of the bed, head down. "I want to go with you," he whispered. I shook my head. "You're still in school. You're still a minor. They'd never allow it. And I can't legally take you. But I don't want to be here without you." His voice broke. I put my hand on his shoulder. "I know. But just hold on. When you turn 18, I'll be there. The second you're ready, I'll come get you. I promise." He nodded slowly, like he was trying to accept something he hated. "You'll text me?" he asked. "Every day," I said. "I'm not disappearing. Just moving forward." He stood up and gave me a quick hug, tight and quiet. Then he slipped out of the room before anyone else woke up. I zipped up the suitcase, grabbed my charger and car keys, and did one last sweep of the room. I left behind anything I hadn't paid for myself. Old picture frames, hand-me-down furniture, things they might try to claim as theirs. By the time I made it to the front door, the house was still dead silent. No one had come to stop me. No one said goodbye. Just the glow of the TV in the living room, playing some early morning rerun no one was watching. I opened the front door. The cold hit me instantly. I didn't flinch. I just stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and wheeled my suitcase to the driveway. The sky was still dark. The streets were empty. My car, a used silver Corolla, sat under a thin blanket of frost. I started the engine, loaded the suitcase into the trunk, and slid into the driver's seat. For a second, I just sat there, hands on the wheel. No tears. No hesitation. They told me to leave. So I did. As I backed out of the driveway and turned onto the main road, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. Not a single curtain moved. Not a single light turned on. It was like I'd never lived there at all. But the silence didn't hurt anymore. It felt like freedom. I got to Sienna's apartment just after 7 a.m. She opened the door in her robe, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She didn't ask questions. She just stepped aside and said, "Stay as long as you need." I placed my suitcase by the couch and sat down, still wearing my coat. I hadn't really eaten. I hadn't even cried. I was tired, but not broken. Sienna made coffee while I stared at the blank TV screen. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. She knew the situation had been bad for a while. By noon, I had showered, changed, and logged into my laptop. There was no screaming, no dramatic speech. Just quiet clicking. I opened the electric company account first. My name was still listed as the primary contact for the Toledo rental. There it was. Next auto payment due in 3 days. $116.89. I clicked Remove Card. A warning popped up. "Are you sure? This account will lose automatic payment access." "Yes." "I'm sure." Next, gas and water. Same process. Remove payment method. Disable autopay. Then, the internet bill. They kept streaming Netflix, Hulu, even Amazon shows like nothing had changed. They didn't think about where the money came from. I opened the Spectrum account. Primary card. Mine. Logged under my email. Set to renew in 5 days. Click. Remove. Confirm. I moved on to the Amazon account, where my mom liked to order random household stuff on impulse. Candles, vitamins, kitchen gadgets we didn't need. Removed my credit card from that too. One by one, I disconnected everything. By the time I was done, it was past 2 p.m. Sienna leaned over from the kitchen and asked gently, "Everything okay?" I nodded.
Yeah.
"I'm just unplugging." The truth was, it didn't feel like revenge. It felt like cleaning. For 4 years, I had been their safety net. Quiet, invisible, taken for granted. They thought they were doing me a favor by letting me sleep in the smallest bedroom. But I was the one keeping the lights on, the heat running, the fridge full.
And now?
They'd have to figure it out without me. No notices. No texts. No explanations. I didn't owe them a speech. I'd already been warning them with my presence for years. They just never listened. That night, I finally slept. On Sienna's couch, under a borrowed blanket, with the hum of the fridge and the sound of the building's heater in the background. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't permanent. But it was mine. No guilt. No obligation. Just silence. And for the first time in a long time, that silence felt peaceful. The first message came 2 days later. I was at Sienna's kitchen table, sipping instant coffee and scrolling through job emails, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. "Internet's down. Do you know what happened?" I didn't reply. A few hours later, another one. "The gas won't turn on. We can't cook anything. Is this you?" I just stared at the screen. She didn't say hi. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't apologize for kicking me out on Christmas. She just expected me to fix things again, like nothing had happened. That night, my brother texted me. "The heat's off. Stepdad's screaming. Mom's blaming each other." I paused before typing. "I'm sorry. Just stay warm. I'm here if you need me." He didn't ask me to fix it. He just needed someone to talk to. Later that evening, a call came in. I let it ring. Then again. On the third time, I picked up just to get it over with. "Rachel." My mom's voice sounded tight. "Why is the power off? Why is the internet not working? Your stepfather is furious. What did you do?" I held the phone steady.
My voice was calm.
"You told me to leave," I said.
So I did.
"And I took everything that was mine." There was silence for a moment.
"You're being selfish," she snapped.
"This is your family." "No," I said. "You made it clear I was a guest. And now I'm gone." She started to say something else, but I ended the call. I didn't need to hear it. That night, Sienna made us pasta, and we watched a dumb reality show on her tiny living room TV. It wasn't anything special. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel responsible for someone else's comfort. I went to bed early. The house I grew up in was probably freezing. No Wi-Fi, no hot water, no takeout deliveries from the food apps linked to my old cards. But that wasn't my problem anymore. The next morning, I got another text from Jacob. "Stepdad's trying to reconnect the internet himself. Yelling all over the house. Mom's crying." Then another. "He said you're trying to destroy the family." I didn't reply. I just took a long breath and kept scrolling. I wasn't destroying the family. I had just stepped away from it. Letting people feel the natural result of their own choices isn't cruel. It's called accountability. But of course, they didn't see it that way. They were used to me doing everything. Quietly. Without thanks. Without asking for anything in return. Now they were sitting in their own silence. And it was finally loud enough to hear. That evening, I logged into every account one more time, just to double-check. Electricity, disconnected.
Gas, removed.
Internet, offline. All bills had been sent back to their rightful owner.
Me?
I was warm. I was safe. I was not their backup plan anymore. The next few days were quiet. No more calls. No more texts. Just cold weather, cheap coffee, and the smallest hint of peace. But something in my gut told me this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. It started with an email. "Suspicious login attempt detected on your bank account." I was sitting in the break room at work, eating a sandwich, when I saw the subject line pop up on my phone. At first, I thought it was a scam. But when I opened the app, it was real, 3 failed login attempts from a location in Toledo. Then a password reset request. My hands tightened around my phone. There was only one person who could be that desperate.
Ron.
He was never good with technology. I had seen him fumble with apps. But he knew one thing. My mom kept a small black notebook in the kitchen drawer. A notebook where she wrote everything. Passwords, pins, login emails. I changed my bank password right away. Then my backup email. Then my phone carrier, just in case. Two-step verification. Fingerprint lock. Face ID. All of it. I wasn't taking chances. Not after everything. An hour later, a text came through. Not from my brother. Not from my mom. It was from a number I didn't recognize. No name. Just 7 words. You think this is over? It's not. No punctuation. No signature. But I didn't need one. I knew that voice, even in writing. I called Jacob. He picked up on the second ring, whispering, "Rachel? You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "But I need to ask you something." He hesitated. "Did Ron find Mom's password notebook?" He was quiet for a moment.
Yeah.
"Yesterday. I saw him flipping through it at the table. He was on the laptop for hours. He said he was trying to recover what you stole." I closed my eyes. Of course. He didn't see the money I spent as help. He saw it as something I owed them. Something he could just take back. "Thanks for telling me," I said. "I'm sorry," Jacob whispered. "He's been losing it lately. Says you're trying to destroy the family name." I almost laughed. What family name? We didn't have money. We didn't have a legacy. We had a rental house with overdue bills and years of resentment buried under it. After work, I sat down at Sienna's kitchen table and went through every single account I'd ever used. Venmo, PayPal, credit card, tax filing, streaming services, email, delivery apps, cloud backup, online banking, socials. I changed the passwords on all of them, 16 characters long, mixed letters and symbols. I activated all security settings, and I removed every old device linked to any of them. For years, I had lived in fear of doing something like this, fear that I'd make things worse, that they'd retaliate. But the truth? I had already been punished for existing. I had already been thrown out, blamed, used, and guilt for years. This wasn't revenge. It was self-defense. Later that night, I got another message from an unknown number. "You think you're better than us? Just wait." I didn't respond. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to the police department in Lucas County, adding it to my harassment report. Then I blocked the number. Before bed, I checked all my locks. I checked my doorbell cam. I turned off the lights and lay on the couch, listening to the quiet. But sleep didn't come easy. Because I knew what people like Ron did when they felt powerless. They pushed harder. And something told me he wasn't done. Not yet. It happened early Saturday morning. I had just stepped out of the bathroom, hair still wet, when I heard banging on the front door. Not knocking, pounding. Over and over. Sienna poked her head out from her room, eyes wide. "Who the hell is that?" I rushed to the peephole, and my stomach dropped. It was my mom, standing outside Sienna's apartment, bundled in a jacket, clutching her purse, face red from the cold and from anger. Behind her stood Ron, arms crossed, jaw clenched, pacing like a caged dog. I didn't open the door. She knocked again, then shouted, "Rachel, I know you're in there. Open the door." Sienna stepped beside me. "Call the police." I was already dialing. She kept yelling, "We need to talk. You can't run from your family forever." Ron banged his fist against the door again. "You ungrateful brat. After everything we did for you." The dispatcher picked up. I kept my voice calm.
Yes.
"I'm in Bowling Green. My parents are outside the apartment. They're threatening me and pounding on the door. I have a harassment report on file." The dispatcher asked a few questions. Then, officers are on the way. Stay inside and do not open the door. We waited. The banging continued. So did the yelling. My heart was pounding, but my hands didn't shake. This time, I wasn't the one with something to fear. Through the peephole, I watched my mother pace, arms waving. You're making this harder than it has to be. Just come out and talk. Ron suddenly slammed the side of his fist into the door again. You owe us. You don't get to just leave and take everything with you. Sienna stood frozen in the hallway. I touched her arm. It's okay. They're not getting in. 2 minutes later, I heard it, a faint siren, growing louder. Red and blue lights lit up the street outside. There was a knock at the door. Firmer. More controlled.
Police.
Open up. I peeked again, 2 officers. I unlocked the door and stepped aside. They entered quickly and closed the door behind them. One officer, a tall woman with short blonde hair, turned to me. Are you Rachel? I nodded.
Yes.
I filed the harassment report. She gave a short nod. Stay here. The other officer stepped back outside. I watched from the living room window. He spoke to my mother, then to Ron. My mom was crying now, trying to explain something, but Ron kept pointing at the apartment like I had robbed them blind. The officers stayed calm. Professional. After a few minutes, both my mom and Ron were escorted off the property. No handcuffs. Just firm warnings. When the female officer came back, she said, they've been told not to return. If they show up again, call immediately. I nodded. Thank you.
She paused.
Do you feel safe staying here?
Yes, I said.
For now. She handed me a card. If anything else happens, anything, you contact us. Then they were gone. Sienna locked the door behind them and turned to me. Are you okay? I nodded, but my throat was tight. I didn't think they'd come here, I whispered. You did the right thing, she said. And you handled it better than I would have. I sat down on the couch, slowly. My phone buzzed. A blocked number. One message. This isn't over. I took a screenshot and sent it straight to the detective handling my case. Then I blocked the number. Again. They weren't just trying to scare me anymore. They were trying to break through the boundary I had finally built. But I wasn't backing down.
Not this time.
3 days after they showed up at the apartment, I got a message from Jacob. Your car is parked outside our house. I blinked at the screen. My heart skipped. That wasn't possible. I hadn't been back to Toledo. I'd left my backup car, a dusty black Honda Civic, in a friend's garage on the north side before moving in with Sienna. The spare key was locked in a drawer at her place. I called Jacob immediately. You're sure it's mine?
I asked.
Yeah, he said. Same plate. Same dent on the back bumper. And I saw Mom using it yesterday to go to the store. I stood up from the couch, pulse rising. How'd they get the key? I asked, already knowing. He hesitated. She said you didn't need it anymore. That it was just sitting there. I think she got a copy made months ago. My hands clenched. They don't just want to hurt me, I said quietly. They want to erase everything I had. After we hung up, I called my friend Casey, who had been storing the car. She answered on the second ring. Hey, is the Civic still at your place? I asked. There was a pause. Actually, no, she said. I thought you picked it up. It was gone yesterday morning. Garage door was open. I figured you needed it. I felt like the floor dropped under me. They hadn't just taken the car. They'd broken into someone else's property to do it. I drove out that afternoon using Sienna's car. I stayed quiet the whole way, heart pounding as I turned onto the old street. And there it was, my car, sitting calmly in front of their house, like it never left, like it still belonged to them. I parked a few houses down and walked over. I didn't touch anything. I just looked through the window. Inside the driver's seat was a grocery receipt with my mother's name. In the back seat, my missing laptop. The same one I couldn't find after I left. The one with all my job files, tax records, even photos from college. They had taken it all. Not just out of desperation, but out of entitlement. I backed away and called the police. I'm reporting a stolen vehicle and personal property, I said clearly. The car is registered in my name. I can show proof. The people who took it are my family. An officer met me on the scene 30 minutes later. I handed over registration, insurance, and screenshots of text messages proving the car had been taken without my permission. I also showed him photos of the car sitting in a private garage just days ago. This is a clear theft case, he said, writing it down. We'll arrange for the vehicle to be returned to you immediately. As for the laptop, we'll need a formal statement. Within an hour, the car was being towed from in front of the house. I watched from down the block as my mom stepped out, yelling at the tow driver. Ron stood behind her, arms crossed, red-faced and silent. I didn't approach them. I didn't say a word. Back at the police station, I filed a written report and left a signed statement for the detective. Before I left, I pulled a folded paper from my bag, a copy of the restraining order petition. If they come near me again or take anything else, I want this ready to file, I said. The officer nodded. We'll keep it on record. That night, I parked the car at Sienna's apartment, locked it twice, and left the keys on her kitchen table. She looked up from her laptop. Everything okay? No, I said quietly. But it will be. Because now, I wasn't just defending myself. I was making sure they couldn't take anything else. Not my safety, not my work, not my peace. They thought they could punish me for walking away. Instead, they taught me how to protect everything that mattered. Jacob turned 18 on a quiet Wednesday. No party, no cake, not even a text from Mom. Just one message to me. I'm ready. That was all it said. I picked him up the next morning. He was standing on the porch with a small black backpack, a plastic grocery bag, and a thin jacket zipped up to his chin. The sky was overcast. The yard hadn't been shoveled. The front door stayed closed behind him. No one came out to say goodbye. You sure about this? I asked, pulling up. Jacob gave a tired smile. I've been sure for a long time. We didn't say much during the drive. Just quiet music and the sound of tires rolling over cold pavement. When we got back to Sienna's, I helped him carry in his things, barely enough to fill a corner of the living room. He unpacked slowly, like he was waiting for someone to stop him. No one did. I didn't want to leave while I was still a kid, he said. I didn't want to give them something else to use against me. I nodded. You did it on your terms. That matters. Later that week, we signed his enrollment papers at Owens Community College. He'd start classes in a few weeks. I helped him pick out a used laptop. We bought some notebooks. Nothing fancy. That night, we ate frozen pizza on the couch, watching a comedy we'd seen a dozen times as kids. But this time, we actually laughed. It didn't feel like escaping anymore. It felt like rebuilding. 2 days later, I filed the official restraining order. I printed everything: text messages, emails, screenshots of threats, the theft report, and notes from the police visit. I handed the whole folder to the clerk at the courthouse. Do you want no contact for both individuals? She asked. Yes, I said firmly. For both of them. When I left the building, I didn't feel relief. I felt clean. Like I had finally closed a door that should have never been open. Jacob stayed quiet most days. He slept a lot, ate in small bites. But slowly I could see him changing. One night, he came into the kitchen and said, "You know what I realized?" "What?" "I used to think walking away made you weak. But you were the only strong one the whole time." I didn't say anything. I just hugged him. We found a small 2-bedroom rental near my job. It wasn't much. Old floors, yellow lighting, a broken mailbox. But it was ours. We moved in on a Saturday morning, hauled a mattress from Facebook Marketplace, carried boxes of secondhand dishes, bought a microwave with a dent in the side. It was the first place I'd ever lived that actually felt like a beginning. That same week, a letter arrived at my old work address. I hadn't forwarded my mail, but someone had slipped it to the front desk. No return name, just a shaky handwriting and a faded stamp. Inside, one piece of paper. No greeting, no apology, just a line in blue ink. You'll regret turning your back on your family. It was unsigned, but I didn't need a name. I folded the letter and dropped it into the shredder at the office without a word. They still thought they had power, but they didn't understand. You can't shame someone who already walked through the fire. I had lost a house. I had lost a mother. I had lost a part of myself. But in that loss, I found peace. And Jacob? He found freedom too. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were living on our own terms for the first time. 2 months passed. Then 4. The silence stayed. No knocks. No more texts. No letters. No missed calls from blocked numbers. Just normal days. I got up for work, made coffee, took the long way home sometimes just because I could. Jacob started classes at Owen's, spent his evenings reading, and filled the apartment with quiet music. We didn't talk about the past every day, but it hung in the corner sometimes, soft but heavy. Like old wallpaper you never fully tear down. One afternoon, Jacob came home smiling. I got a 92 on my psych quiz, he said. My professor said I should consider majoring in it. I smiled back. I think she's right. Later that week, we bought a small second-hand dining table off Facebook Marketplace. Wobbly legs. Faded wood. But it was ours. We ate dinner there every night.
Cheap pasta.
Eggs and toast. Cereal sometimes, when we were tired. No one yelled. No one judged. No one kept score. And for the first time in years, there was room to breathe. One Saturday, we sat by the Maumee River, eating sandwiches we packed from home. Jacob leaned back on the bench, looking out over the water. You know what I realized? He said. What? I don't hate them. I just don't miss them. I didn't speak right away. I know exactly what you mean, I finally said. It wasn't anger that stuck with us, it was exhaustion. Years of walking on eggshells. Years of being useful instead of being loved. Letting go wasn't easy, but staying would have been worse. That same night, I opened a fresh notebook and wrote down everything we had accomplished in the past year. New apartment.
2 jobs.
1 college enrollment. Car fully in our name. No missed rent. No late bills. No shouting. A new life. No noise. No guilt. Just quiet, earned peace. Sometimes I thought about my mom. I wondered if she ever regretted it. Christmas Eve, the words she said at the dinner table, the silence afterward. I wondered if she meant it, or if she said it out of bitterness, or fear, or pride. But I stopped wondering what would have happened if I stayed. Because I didn't stay. And I never should have. Jacob got a part-time job on campus. I started applying for supervisor roles at my office. We saved every extra dollar. We bought a bookshelf, a small rug, a used TV that sometimes turned blue for no reason. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. And we built it with our own hands. One night, while we watched a movie on the couch, Jacob turned to me and said something I'll never forget. You didn't just save yourself, you saved me too. I didn't answer. I just reached over and held his hand. We didn't need a traditional family anymore. We just needed each other. We weren't tied by blood. We were tied by the decision to protect each other when no one else would. If I had stayed, maybe none of this would have happened.
But I didn't stay.
And thank God for that. Because sometimes, to build something new, you have to burn the old structure down completely. Even if it used to be called home. What would you do if the people meant to protect you were the ones holding you back?